Welcome to Hops News, the trusted source in beer culture news. Here's your host, Jay Brew, with special guests, the Hoppy Mommy, Lucky, and Nash.
Everybody, welcome back to a little bit of a delayed Veterans Day edition of Hops News. As always, I am welcomed here with some very, very special guests tonight. We have Lauren, aka Hoppy, we got Lucky, and we have Veronica, and we have Danii Oliver from Beersgiving, who you might recognize from a earlier episode, probably back around June, I think it was. We got a really great episode. No donate button tonight. However, if you are able to donate to Beersgiving, that's the big one tonight. They help out a lot with military families, veterans, all the sorts of that. As you know, yesterday was Veterans Day. But let's start off. I'm drinking a little Progression IPA from a brewery called Faces. They just opened up in my home state of Massachusetts, and I felt like Progression was the perfect beer for tonight with everything happening in the world. We're going to start making progress. So I'm excited to be here.
What are
Hoppy,
you referring to, Matt?
what are you
I don't know what
drinking
you're referring to. Just kidding. That was a joke.
We're pretty much staying on just the big view for those of you watching. Jay is not here tonight. He had a little bit of emergency happen last minute, and that's okay. I've ran this.
Everything's
a couple times
okay
before.
though.
Yeah, let me. We're gonna get extra weird tonight, so I'm excited to start. What are we drinking tonight? What's happening?
Well, I'm drinking a Pilsner.
Equity.
Go ahead,
Sorry,
Danii.
guys.
You're good.
I can't see. There's always a delay. I apologize in advance. I can't really see anybody. I'm just staring at a green screen.
You
We'll
want me to
start.
go?
Danii, what are we
Hoppy
drinking
Mommy?
tonight?
I'm drinking Equity. So you're drinking Progression. I'm drinking Equity from Equity Brewery in Oklahoma. First woman-owned brewery, all woman-owned, all woman brewed. My sisters.
Hey,
That's awesome.
that is awesome. Yeah, there's definitely a lot more like all women owned breweries popping up. You know, you have Lady Justice, and that's really exciting to see because when you kind of think of the stereotypical brewery, you think hipsters and beards and flannels. So we're kind of breaking the mold and even in the playing field across, and I love to see it. And we're gonna get a little to Pink Boots here later on because I think we have some exciting news in regards to Pink Boots. But Hoppy, what are we drinking tonight?
I'm actually drinking a beer from Threes Brewing called People Power. 10% of the proceeds go to the ACLU. So I decided this would be a good beer to start with. And I have a beer from a veteran brewery on deck because of obvious reasons that we'll get into, especially our guest, Veronica.
Yes. Big. Look at us. We're going around the table. Lucky's probably drinking something off the walls. Nothing to do with any progression or equity or anything like that. But Lucky, what do you got on deck tonight, my man? You always got some pretty good beers.
I have one that I sent you, Baby Yo from Third Space. It's obviously a playoff of the Baby Yoda and the Mandalorian.
Today's his birthday.
Recently.
It is Baby Yoda's birthday today. So you see, look at that. You joined in a way you didn't even know.
Yeah, that's
Also,
actually
the
no, I
ladies
planned
of
that.
Equity
I planned
Brewery.
that. Is it?
Also, the
Wow,
ladies of
really?
Equity Brewery own a business called the Third Space. So
Oh, really?
there you go.
We had this
Hey,
all.
it's all coming full
planned
circle.
out.
Hell yeah.
I do
That's
have
awesome.
I
Well-
do have on deck a Pink Boots collaboration. I promise. I was just saving it. I thought I'd get through this one in the pre-show. So
Nice.
it'll be
you'll-
out in like 2 sips.
Perfect. Well, we also have another special guest tonight. Veronica is joining us. She's got a lot of great stories, I'm sure, to tell, and we're going to talk a little bit about what she does. But Veronica, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, if you're drinking anything, what do you got going on?
Oh, can't hear
Uh-oh.
Veronica.
There,
we can't hear you.
I don't
You're
know.
on mute.
I think she's muted.
I'm muted. Can you hear me?
No, Veronica's muted.
No, we hear
Oh,
you, Matt.
Okay,
Veronica might be muted.
I see her. I see her there. Oh no, Veronica, can
Yep,
you hear
I think
us?
she's trying to figure it out. Nope,
No, not yet.
can't.
Okay. In the meantime, well, we'll get to Veronica here hopefully in a second. Anytime she can hear us, just chime right in. We'll stop what we're doing, chime right in. But as I said before, we have Danii here. She Beersgiving, but she also has another title. I do believe you might have gotten some good news about Pink Boots. You want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about your newly elected position within the Pink Boots Society?
Yeah, so I got elected to the board of directors for the international society that is Pink Boots,
Yes.
representing women not only in beer, but all the fermentation styles now around the world.
Awesome. That's great. How long of a process was that? Is it kind of like they put out for anybody within Pink Boots to apply and kind of fight for that position in a way, or how does that process work?
There was no fight. I was actually the first person ever to campaign. So I just decided to campaign. It was less than 30 days. It was from September 8th to September 30th, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. But basically, they just did an internal call for women to nominate other women or to nominate themselves. And they took a blurb from everyone and put it out. And we could only vote internally, so you had to be a member to vote. And I decided to campaign because I wanted women not to choose to vote for me because of my skin, but because of what I stood for. And they really had a big push where they wanted to bring diversity to the board, because up until now, for the last, I think, 13 or 11 years, something like that, it's only been white women led. And they took a hard look at the membership, at the board, and they said, you know what, maybe it's time for change. And so they opened it up for members to run. I ran, I campaigned, I talked about the issues, I held town halls. I heard from women from around the world about their concerns and needs that weren't being met. And some way, somehow, folks voted for me. So I'm in there.
Hey, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
hear
I mean,
me.
you must have had a really good message
Yes.
go
Yes,
out
we
that
can.
people
Yes,
were
we
like,
can.
yes, this is who we want. So you said you're part of the international. So do you mostly deal with the international aspect, or do you also kind of deal with everything in the States and you guys get together all together collaboratively, or how does that work being on the international portion?
So it's one society, and it happens to be an international society. So a lot of times people will say national, but it's more than national. Like, we have chapters in
I know it's Germany.
in Europe, in
gonna
Australia,
say,
in
shout out
Germany, in
Brewers.
Canada, in Peru. We have chapters all around the
Wow.
world. And so it is not just a national society. It is most definitely an international society. And I want to bring attention to that. I want to bring attention to the fact that there are women represented around the world and bring them more into the fold, because up until now, folks just thought it was a national thing, that it was just for U.S. citizens and U.S. Women working in beer. And it's so much bigger than that. And so my push has been to talk to women internationally, to table touch with them, and to bring them into the conversation that we're having here, and support them on a greater level.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's great to expand, right? I mean, we can all sit here and kind of echo chamber once you get to a certain point within like the United States, but to really grow outside of those boundaries, those borders, people love beer from all over, and to be able to kind of connect and say, hey, it's cool. You're in places like Peru. No, you have a voice as well, and people are going to hear it. So I think that's really incredible, and something that we need more of, quite frankly.
Right. Well, when we did our episode with Pink Boot Society, I think it was back in June, we had Brewwitch from Germany on, and she was even able to find a Pink Boots beer all the way over there. So we were all drinking different Pink Boots beers. So that was pretty cool. I'm still bummed, though. I had tickets for the Femme Ale Beer Fest in March. My dad and I were going to go. It was in South Florida. That's where I'm from. And of course, that I still have the ticket, technically.
Yeah, we do too. Are you guys able to hear me now?
Yes, we hear you very well.
Oh, yes, we can hear you. Hey, for anybody who might have just joined, we have another special guest tonight, Veronica, calling in from Atlanta, Georgia. She is a former partner of Danii Oliver, and why don't you're also a veteran too, right? U.S. Army veteran?
Yeah, I served for about 10 years, did a couple of tours, lots and lots of experiences, and bringing that into our business ventures, our partnerships now, bringing it into more than just veterans. Our services are for people looking to transition, to grow, to build, to liberate themselves. So I'm excited.
Yeah, that is amazing. How did you get hooked up then after you were transitioning out of the Army, and what you do is kind of you help people transition and kind of take care of them, set them up for post life and all that kind of stuff, correct?
That's part of what I do. I help people, I coach people through the transition, not only out of the military, but from different corporate sectors as well. People that are looking to go into entrepreneurship or spaces that are kind of foreign to them, that might need some type of mental adjustment or mindset shift. Outside of that, our primary goal is to influence people through their experiences through our retreats. So we provide different experiences for moms, veterans, people in different industry. This year, our highlight is the beverage industry, working with Danii, working with people that are looking for more natural ways to heal, and not just like internally, but also externally, physically, mentally, spiritually, through what they eat, what they drink, what they do, how they think, where they are, who they're around, all of those things. We get a little deep with it, but ultimately we're giving them the space to figure it out, because that's really what it is. Nobody has any answers with anything, right, ultimately, but we give them the space to figure it out.
Well, that's the one thing, right? You join the military, you're taught for so long that to think one certain way, or it's got to be this way, it's got to be that way. And they almost kind of set it up to where they make you afraid to get out of active duty or the military in general. So there are certain services now, like you have the TAPS program that kind of helps you out, but a lot of people, I don't think they know how to get out. And so that's where programs like you guys have are huge, and it's okay to get out. You don't have to stay in forever. You don't have to fight that. You can get out, and that's really, really important. We need more of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the idea for the military it's one of those things people, when they look at it, it's a commitment. It's a thing that they do long term. So when they enter, most people idea is not that they're getting out at some point or even soon. So a lot of people don't volunteer. Like I have a friend that got out, and it wasn't her. She didn't want to get out. She got injured. So for her to have to get out, she's still adjusting. And that was 7 years ago. Here we are talking about it. And she's still trying to transition and figure out and get her footing. And it's not just her. I have lots of friends that just realized 7 years later that they need help. So just the idea of people I'll say the military gives a solution, their solution. But people are such individuals that it's difficult for an individual to go into a broad program and get like help, like actual help. Of course, there's different hotlines and there's different programs and a whole bunch of checklists, right? But there is nothing that's customized that says, hey, I want to go into the beer industry. I want to go into mental health that doesn't look like psychology or psychiatry. Maybe I want to go into yoga. Maybe I want to go into these spaces. So there isn't anybody that actually faced with you of exploration and saying, hey, what makes you feel fulfilled? What makes you feel like this is what you're here to do? Because for so long, like you said, you're directed. You're told what to do. You're living a necessity, like you have to live to be able to live again tomorrow. So when we think about getting out, we're not even thinking about like the basis of a bill. In the military, you could go and get anything you want, whether you can afford it or not, just having the backing of being in the military. So when you're getting out and you have to go and visit those financial areas and understand like, well, credit does matter. This matters, that matters.
Yeah.
Getting housing matters. All of those things matter. And though there is support, it's not unique enough to where people can transition as smooth as they should be based on the sacrifice they've exchanged. So,
yeah, for sure. And something I've almost kind of noticed myself, it's you mentioned that people are finding you can go and be a yoga instructor, you can be anything else. And maybe Danii can even attest through the Beersgiving is I've noticed you have the older heads in the military, right? Where, they've been in 15 plus years and they're used to being a certain way. You're talking a certain way. You can't question anything. Well, a lot of the younger kids that I notice, and even myself, is we question everything. You want to know why something works. I've been in almost 9 years myself. And then you have a bunch of just, I don't want to say free thinkers, but that's kind of what they are. And that's something that the military almost hasn't had. And it's a good thing that we have these free thinkers, because then maybe it's going to change that culture of, it is going to be okay to get out. There is help to get out there. And it's becoming okay to get those mental health helps, the check-ins, things like that. Whereas before, nobody would get these mental health help or any sort of help. And they just kind of lived with it, and it affected either their families or them negatively. And so making it okay to reach out to somebody, get help, or even you have there's the stigma for a reason, right? You have the young private, the young airman who comes in and they buy a Mustang at like 25% APR, and it's like there's no financial. The fact that they're in the military got them that car, but they can't pay those bills, and so
and they
these
shouldn't be paying
programs
those
is
bills. Like
amazing.
that's the ridiculousness of that. Like there's nobody that stops you and says, "Hey, don't do that." You mentioned the old heads. And I think that like even just bringing that idea up, I've met so many of us that have spent, like you said, 9 years, but have spent 20 and 30 years. And then they realize that was like a whole totally different life, life. And they get out here, and then nothing that they've done as a sergeant major translates into civilian life. Nothing that you've done in the military in that capacity of leadership like no one's gonna hire. I remember getting out and going to DSW as applying for a manager position. Then I also got another job because it was like, oh, this is nothing. So I did not go to the college there and work for the vice president there, and then I get another job and work for the director all at the same time, because I didn't realize the level of intensity that I had been experiencing for so long, the challenges that I had been experiencing for so long, to where life felt almost like there wasn't any challenges here for me. Like I could do this. This was just paperwork. There wasn't any danger. So when I think about the old heads that spend 30 years and then get out, and that retirement check does nothing for your mind, It does nothing for you when you're sitting home looking for somebody else to tell what to do. That starts to bleed into your family. It starts to bleed into like your more intimate life, because work now has been like removed. So I worry about those people more. And because they're old heads, they're not going to seek help. They're not going to actually say, hey, this don't make sense to me. while we're out there just exploring. I've been to so many schools, it's ridiculous. So we're out there just exploring because we're that's open to that. There's a larger generation of people that are getting out, and some of them are the ones that we see on the side of the street, which is what bothers me the most. Is those people, it's easier, and I've talked to them even. Sometimes it's easier for them to release what civilian life should look like and just be in a space where they can control, because as much as we think that it's uncontrollably being homeless or on the street, it's a more controlled environment. It's more sure. It's more, it's almost
Certain.
like more relaxed. Yeah, because nobody's knocking at your door. Nobody's harassing you for the most part.
Yeah.
It's a totally different lifestyle, and you're used to surviving. You're used to living in a life of survival. So for me, it's not even hard to even fathom, just like give it all up and walk away.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting what
it's,
you
it's
I was gonna say, it's interesting what you say, though. You're helping these people, and guiding them to another profession. And it's like, I don't have any military experience, Mash and Jay do. And we've come across so many people on this podcast that do have it. But it's very interesting as well, because it's like you go to the military, you go to college or this and that. And it's like, you have to decide what you're going to do with the rest of your life right then and there. That's where the guidance counselors are. That's where everybody's steering you. And it's like, if you decide 10 years later that that's not what you want to do, it's like, there's not, you're not 21 anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like people aren't as eager to be like, oh, people, let me help you. This is what you need to do to now become this or to become that. So it's interesting because you said that you don't just provide these services for military. It seems like military needs them on a higher level than other careers, because it becomes, your whole life and your mindset. And even like I went to law school, and I feel like they change how you think. And that's not as submersive as the military. So I can only imagine having to retrain your brain. But I mean, I feel like we all need that in any level. And as far as retiring, they say a lot of people who retire, if they don't stay active, they die much younger. And just like they don't have a reason to live, kind of thing.
You're absolutely right.
That is very interesting.
My focus is the military, because that's just, I went in at 17. I signed up at 16, and I spent majority of my adulthood. And I realized early how lost I was. So my focus has been the military. But my focus is anyone that is looking to actually control what their life looks like. Mm-hmm. Because that looks very different from what it looks like on a corporate level or going from a 9 to 5 in different spaces. It's so different when we think about transitioning. I even think about how I transition now, even into motherhood. Like I'm sitting here now, like, oh my God, I gotta go get my baby because I can hear her crying. And balancing those spaces. So transition is ongoing. It's everlasting. It's not something that we get to do. That's why I call it transition coaching, because it's nothing that I can help you accomplish. You're not going to get transitioned. We're going to transition, and then we're going to teach you how to transition, and you'll continuously transition as you're growing and you're changing.
Right. Well, and I like that you focus on different things too, because I was actually going to mention, after Danii came on the show and over the summer, I follow her personal account, her brewery and Beersgiving, and I've seen things about eating healthy, and I love that, because it's like I've had people ask me, you drink all this beer, how are you not overweight? Well, I eat healthy, and I'm exercise, and I'm conscious of what I'm putting in my body, and I'm not just chugging beer, and it has so much to do with your state of mind as well. I saw you wanting to say something. Go ahead, Veronica.
No. I was saying I'm listening. I got to go grab her because she's screaming. But I'm still with you guys.
Hey, that's totally fine. Well, since we're still on the subject of, veterans and all that, let's kind of talk about Beersgiving some more for those who might not have seen the episode, or those, who maybe just forgot. Tell us a little bit about Beersgiving. We have Danii Oliver, founder. Man, she does it all. I tell you, I don't know how you have any time for yourself, because you run a brewery. Yeah, you have kids. You do Beersgiving. You just got elected to this board. I swear, I have no idea how you do it.
Well, I just listened to a podcast in preparation to be on the board that was about volunteer boards for nonprofits. And one of the things that they said on the podcast was, if you want to get something done, give it to the busiest person. So
I like that.
I feel
No,
like
that
all day
is
long.
very true. Very true.
And it's funny because people be like, oh, I didn't want to reach out to you because I know you're busy. I'm like, because I'm busy, that is the reason why you should reach out to me, because I'm focused on getting her done. I could not talk to you guys today without having Veronica on, because I think she touched on it. Like, there are certain mindsets that just have to be busy, that have to be actively doing something that is leading toward a goal. Like, we have a mission and we can't stop until we accomplish the mission. There's been so many nights and mornings that Veronica and I have talked to each other at 4 a.m. because we're on a mission. We have work to do and we can't sleep until that work is done. So for all the titles that I have, from farmer to brewer to businesswoman to homeschool mom to wife to business owner, they're all holistic. They're not separate from one another. It's just the work that I do, and because I'm a leader, I have a title that society recognizes. That I couldn't just sit and be a mom all day. Like, I'd kill myself.
No,
That's
for
boring.
sure. Yeah.
Like,
No, that's
like,
It's
okay.
funny you do mention like you
I know
need to
it's
be busy
okay,
all
but
the
for
time.
me, I've tried it.
Right.
And in the 3 weeks that I was by myself parenting while my husband was in Korea,
Oh yeah.
to do things that I can't talk about because it's military related. Just being a mom by myself for 3 weeks, like I couldn't just do that. So I was like, let me run a campaign for Pink Boots. And I ran a campaign and took care of my kids and ran a collaboration brew with the Pink Boots chapter here in North Texas. And I went out and met with women face to face because there's work to do. And I'm not just raising my children. Beersgiving to me is really about raising leaders and a workforce for the craft beer industry. We've got 8 to 10,000 breweries coming up right now, and they're still male dominated. They're still white dominated. There's still so much room for diversity and equity and inclusion. And it seems like nobody knows how to get there. And Beersgiving is a solution that is wide open for anyone to come on, whether they're on board with us or they just go to our website and steal what we've written down and do it themselves. And it's really 4 easy steps. Well, maybe one step is not so easy, but one is to become welcoming, to actively welcome people into the industry. I've never been welcomed into a brewery in my entire drinking life. No time have I walked in and they were like, hey, welcome. We're glad you're here. We'd like to introduce you to our beers. No one has ever done that to me. I do it in my brewery. That was how we welcome people in. We'd make them feel like we were waiting for them. Like, what took you so long? We've got the perfect beer for you. We made them feel welcome. We made them feel at home. I can't tell you how many times I've had people come into my brewery, sit down and want to drink because it was their last drink on earth. And then they later on not only did not kill themselves, but went to perform in my brewery, came by and had a regular drink on the menu that was made just for them, that was non-alcoholic. They became part of our community because we welcomed them and made them feel like we wanted to know their name. And so that's the first tenet of Beersgiving, is to be welcoming to all. Don't look at a woman when she comes in the brewery and look at her like, why are you here? Do you know where you just walked into?
Or then just talk to her husband, because she knows more about beer than her husband does.
Exactly. And I tell you, like, there's so many women, like I just had an event with Girls Pine Out where the women here were telling me, like, we're only in this because we want to go to a brewery and feel safe. What? Wow. Like, that should not be a conversation being had. Breweries aren't dive bars.
No.
So being welcoming is the first thing that we've got to focus on as a industry. The second thing is to mentor, to bring people up to the point where what they don't know, we tell them. Like, there's no test. There's no trick questions. You don't know how to transition into this industry. You don't know certain things about beer. We're going to tell you. And we're going to help you get to the point that you want to be, so that you can either make a career shift or you can make a lateral move into the industry. Because like Veronica was saying, sometimes certain environments are not for certain people. You know what I mean? Like, if you're a type of person you need to keep busy, you need a lot of things to pay attention to, you'd be good in craft beer. If you're not the kind of person who wants to put on a monkey suit and work in corporate America, that's fine. You don't have to do compliance for corporate America. You could do compliance in the beer industry while having a beer. You know what I mean? Or while rocking your baby in the brew house and still getting your work done. Like, there's room in our industry for people to live real human lives that doesn't cause you to change who you are or ignore the other parts of your being. Then the next part is to collaborate, to do things like what we're doing right now, to come together and to build things that have never been built before, to provide opportunity to people who have never been given opportunity before. My first 5 years in craft beer, none of the breweries around me wanted to do anything with me. Like, if I wasn't a dude and didn't have a beard, they weren't talking to me. You know, they would walk up to my husband and be like, "Hey, how you doing?" And he's like, "Yeah, no, I'm not the person you want to talk to. She is."
That's my husband says that, and I don't even
like,
work in the industry.
Lauren probably knows more about beer than any of us at the very least. Like, the things that she
For
knows,
sure more than me.
I'd
like much
can't
more.
pretend to know.
But my first 5 years in beer.
Yeah, well, a lot of what I've learned though has been traveling and just talking to other people. And like, you know, my husband, he's traveled his whole life, even as a kid. So when we got together as adults, he gave me the travel bug. And then once I started getting to beer, it was like, well, we planned the trips around breweries. And if we had the kids, I had to research if they were kid friendly and all that. So, you know, like my kids have all been to Russian River Brewing. And, you know, they've been to breweries all over the country. We left them home when we went to Vermont because we had to do Vermont properly. But I mean, yeah, I've learned a lot of it from doing beer tours. I mean, every time I go on a brewery tour, I learn something new. They're not all the same. I've heard people say that. I don't think any two brewery tours. I mean, I've done Carlsberg in Denmark. It was a beer museum. So it's like, I love just absorbing all of that. But I think it has gotten better in recently, as opposed to when the beer industry first took off with people only talking to my husband. But it does still happen. Like, I will ask not even necessarily somebody behind the bar, but somebody at the bar, a question, and then they start looking at my husband and answering the question to him, and then they'll ask him a question, and he will literally just back up and just be like he redirected.
It's like, you're at the wrong place. I have no idea.
Right, like,
and that happens a lot.
Yeah,
that happens like a whole lot, and I think that's one of why it's really important, like what Danii and I are doing. Everybody doesn't, like, it's not always a conscious thing that they're doing. It's almost sometimes like programming or just what they're used to, or any of the excuses that we want to give, right? Whatever.
That is a good point. Any excuse. That's the key word right there. Because
this is why this is important. Kind of what it is,
right? We make excuses to allow this behavior. This is why
it's important. We have to now make it a point to have these conversations, have these trainings, bring these things to people's forefront, because in my opinion, in my experience, even anything we don't know or don't realize by ourselves through self-awareness and observance, then it's almost because we don't want to. Anything I've ever learned about myself is because I looked for it and I looked at it and I look how I'm showing up in the world, how I'm showing up to other people. But in a lot of times for people outside of like women, we have to think about that. Most men don't. Right. Whether it's a woman of color, whether it's a woman that has a baby, whether it's a woman that just has a whole lot of knowledge and they don't feel like she should be there or know that. Right. A lot of times we're fighting just to even have that voice or even a space to have a voice or think about it, even talking about it. So what we're trying to do primarily with the retreats and the offerings that we're bringing up is to be able to bring those spaces to light and have safe conversations, not just with other women, but other people in the industry, other powerful people outside of the industry, people that we want to call Starbucks. Like we say, want to call Starbucks and say, hey, Starbucks, how can we train you and make your place better? How can we make what you're offering better by giving you this training and actually talking about wellness on a different level, totally different from what you're used to, and actually saying, hey, we're not trying to take your employees, even though if they want to leave, they can, you know. But, you know, just giving that space to actually allow people to feel, because it's a lot of people that don't feel like it's our place as women to be in certain places. Then go a little further. It's not our place to be in certain places with babies.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I
Yeah.
mean, even being a lawyer,
It's
I would
funny.
see that. Like I had like an older guy at like a bankruptcy hearing that, I mean, this guy's probably like 70 covering these ridiculous hearings and like would straight up just say the most misogynistic things. And everyone's kind of like, well, he's going to be dead soon. What do we do? Like, it's crazy. And I would often have like, I would do a consultation with somebody and they'd be like, so when do we meet the attorney?
Wow.
What? I'm not the paralegal.
Like, so it is, you say that, but like we had an experience. So I'm obviously in the military, right? Well, we went to a military ran, like a veteran owned brewery in town. I'm not going to name the name. She was like, I was in the Navy, blah, blah, blah. And she started talking to me about, assuming that I was a military member, which yes, I am. However, she didn't even bother to ask my wife if she was military, which my wife, that's how I met her. She was a medic in the military. So she just assumed that she was never in the military. My wife was like, actually, I was in too. But it was like a female Navy veteran was just assuming that and she even did it to herself. And I was just like, I take what my wife has done being, a medic and doing the medical stuff. She's more important than what I did. I was just pumping gas. Like I was a glorified gas attendant. So I feel like hers meant more and it means a lot to her. So those blinders, they do really exist. And, as a dude, I guess I don't see it all the time, but in instances like that, it really stands out to me. And I'm like, wow, I never think about it. And then I'll stop and think, I'm like, yeah, why aren't we doing something about this?
Mhm.
Right. Well, I like what Danii said about making you feel welcome, because it's like one of the breweries in the Orlando area is also a church. It's called Castle Church Brewing, and they make you feel so welcome the second you come in. They thank you for being there. Even like I don't know if he's called the pastor. I think he's the pastor.
Beers for Jesus.
He comes over. I mean, he's behind the bar pouring beer. He comes over. How's the beer? How was everything? I mean, and everyone there is so friendly and they're so welcoming. They even have like a pride night. I mean, they are just the most welcoming brewery I've ever been to. And they're majorly kid friendly. When the first time we went, we brought a few of us went and we had our kids, because they even have a playroom because it's church. It's closed right now because of COVID, but the head brewer came over and thanked us for bringing our kids, because only his kids had been there before, and now his kids had some kids to play with.
Wow.
I do that when when people bring their kids in. I'm like, we don't care about you. We care with the kids.
Which
is why we have.
Then I'm like, I always feel awkward bringing my kids to a brewery, but like, there's one in town that makes like slushes it's like the kids can get a slush and I can get a beer, and it feels great.
Yep. And that's why I have a non-alcoholic program before it was even popular, because not everybody's drinking alcohol and everyone should feel welcome. The kids should feel welcome. People in sobriety should feel welcomed. I mean, all we're doing is brewing, right? So why not brew things that help reach out to different kinds of folk, to bring them in and make them feel welcome and build something better? I mean, at the end of the day, for no other reason other than to make more money, right? Be welcoming. And
I mean, that's
Veronica,
the ultimate goal, right? Is you want to make money to stay afloat. So
yes. And Veronica brought up in depth the fourth and final part of Beersgiving, which are the retreats. Right now, Island to Island is set to open at Kiddo Family Ranch here in Texas. It's our farm and bunny ranch where we're also brewing. We did a sneak peek for this year's Beersgiving in November, and it was for Learn to Homebrew Day. And folks in the industry came out and got to retreat. They got to get out the city. They got to get away from their jobs. We sat around and had a bonfire chat. And I got emails from these women. They're like, yeah, we need to have more bonfires because we needed that. We needed to release. We needed that space. And it wasn't space where I said, this is what's going to happen. It was just space that we created. And so we have retreats coming up in January, in March, and in April for women to get away, build, grow, and then we're opening it up to the wider industry, not just women, like Veronica said, not just beer, but beverage industry and professionals, so that we can all network and grow, collaborate and mentor and become welcoming when we take ourselves out of our comfort zones and learn about what we don't know about together as a community. And that's Beersgiving.
She mentioned
not everybody has
that we
all
were
the answers for everything, so it's a good thing to like reach out with each other and just bounce ideas, especially in something like the beer industry where you can have similar beers, yeah, but then there's like beer breweries who just go crazy and off the walls, and it's always great to share those ideas with somebody else, because you never know who has a good idea that you can maybe take and make it your own, and then you guys both grow together and swap ideas. That's the only way to kind of grow, is doing things such as that.
Yeah.
Veronica, what were you gonna say?
Yeah. She mentioned that we were
sorry.
opening it up a little bit broader than just women in the beer industry, because what we want to do, while we're talking to us because we're affected, we're the ones on the opposite end of the stick, right? But what we want to do is to change the givers. We want to change the other side when we talked about actually affecting the people that affect us. So this is our main goal or reason for opening it up to other people within the beverage industry. We need people that are affecting the people that are being affected. That's the trick. That's the trick. We need to affect the affectors. And until we are able to do that, we're going to continuously be affected and need healing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we could do both simultaneously, like, hey, I understand that maybe you don't know what you're doing. This is how we can help you if you truly want help. And, oh, by the way, we can heal some of the spaces that you've already damaged along the way, or somebody else has damaged in their previous experiences, and now you're having to deal with it. And we're going to help them, get along a little bit better with you. So I think it's really important that we make it a really big point that for sure this is for women, but we need the affectors to also participate in the healing process, because nobody calls the bully and it's like, are you okay? Do you need some help? Nobody calls the bully, but who helps them? Like, who actually helps them? We want to persecute them and punish them and all that other stuff, but who actually says, hey, what you're doing is not okay, and this is an alternative? Because we always talk about stop doing what you're doing, but what do we do in the place of that? So
Yes.
That makes a lot of sense. It's really easy to be like, hey, this isn't okay, and then they're just kind of like, all right. But if you give them that alternative, they might not have, like, I guess maybe they see more clearly. It's like, oh yeah, it is right. You're totally right. There is another path to go down.
The excuses, no matter what they are at that point, because now not only are you aware, you have an alternative. So it's not left up to you to figure out. We don't need you to figure it out, because that has been the excuse for many, 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 many years. We don't know what else to do. And then we just revert back to what we know. So that removes the excuse, right? Like, if you say, I don't know how to do my homework, then we buy you a tutor. We are your tutors.
No, 100%. Yeah, it's and people don't like change, but you got to be open to change. I mean, that's the only way to move forward in the world in general, whether it's beer or anything. You got to be able to, because if things stays the same forever, it just stale, boring, and no one ends up happy.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
I spoke to the wonderful, amazing Stephanie Meyer today. And she said, you do not shit on the CEO's desk without bringing toilet paper. That is her line.
Ooh.
And so, like you said, Veronica, like you can't just be like, this problem is problem.
I don't know how consider.
Right. That's exactly like you can't do that. Well, you can, but that doesn't change anything. That just causes insecurity and issues within that individual. That's what happens if you tell me that my shoes are ugly and you don't give me no money to buy some new ones. I'm like, you're ugly. I'm so sick of these shoes.
All right, I'm still wearing these shoes.
Right. I'm going to start to project. And people don't understand that about projection a lot of times. It's not always just somebody retaliating or just punishing the next person. Sometimes it's a lot of projection. So a lot of times, like we said, our affectors, our bullies need help. Yeah. And before we could actually, stop the effect of what they're doing, then we have to also, in some way, try to assist them as well. So let's go to Cabo.
Yeah.
But that's being proactive rather than reactive. Fix the problem where the problem is. Don't just keep tying up the pipe kind of thing. Like, you got to rehaul the whole thing.
For sure.
Yep. And so when people reach out to me on the Instagrams with their bully comments, Danii, you're all over the place. Danii, I don't understand what you're doing. Well, I hope that this conversation here helps to bring it together. Like, it's more than just having people go to beer school, right? It's more than having a black beer and then forgetting about it. It's more than giving money to a cause. It's about doing real work, and that work has a mental aspect to it. It has an attitude aspect to it. It has a worldview shift required to move into a space where we're truly diverse, we're truly inclusive, and we can start to build equity. And a lot of people keep reaching out asking, how do we do that? How do we put our heads together? You don't need to think about it no more. You just need to call us up and we will get you set up and on the right track. That is what Beersgiving is about. We're out here doing that real work. And last year, this time when I brought this idea to the industry, folks laughed and they were like, you can't do that. That's not possible. Well,
Really?
2020 has proved otherwise.
That's that closed-minded,
Right.
man. That's like that closed-mindedness right there.
Yeah.
Wow. So your event are you involved at all with Girls Pine Out?
So we actually collaborated with them for our Beersgiving Learn to Homebrew Day, which
Right, I
was
saw
more
that.
about mentorship, but it also turned into a collaborative effort where they ran our virtual aspect of the Learn to Homebrew Day. So it was a collaboration brew with Pink Boots, and it was a barrel-aged conversation by Beersgiving. They ran the virtual day. They made sure that folks from around the world were able to tune in and learn all the different styles of fermentation. And then they helped us to host the very first mentorship conversation where women, only women, talked about their different roles in beer and the things they do. And I got to tell you, those women, when I reached out to them, they were like, Danii, I can't mentor anybody. I don't know what I have to offer. I don't know how to brew beer. I can't do this. And I encouraged them to still give us 15 minutes. And at the end of that conversation, these women were brimming with smiles from ear to ear. They didn't know how much they had to offer. They didn't know what they could provide. They didn't even understand, before they sat and talked about it, their own career path on how they got to where they were. Because you got to understand something about women, especially in male-dominated industries. We overcompensate like a motherfucker. Okay,
And
these
we're
women are
still left behind. It's unfucking believable.
like, we overcompensate, we overlearn, we overeducate, we overstudy. I mean, I've got sales reps who are technicians on beer lines, who are who are Cicerone certified level 2, who are off flavor taste seminar runners, like, and all they do is sell beer, but they felt like they needed to have all of this behind them when they walked in
Right.
front of a man to say, may I please have a job? And so, and this is literally how women have been projecting themselves in the industry. And come January 3rd, our first Beersgiving retreat, that's not going to happen anymore. Women are going to sit down. We're going to work on our resumes. We're going to work on how we're adding value. We're going to work on the things that we did in 2020 to keep our breweries afloat. And by the end of that day, women are going to walk out and say, this is the value that I add. This is how I keep this company afloat. This is what I'm worth. This is now my job title. I'm no longer a helper in your brewery. I'm a production specialist. You know what I mean? Like, there's a title and there's a paycheck that comes with it. And that's what we're working to create.
Are you going to, I'm asking about the Girls Pine Out specifically, are you going to do more events with them in the future? Because me and 2 other women actually just took over the Orlando one. It's Orlando Sanford, but we can't even do live events right now. So we've done 1 virtual event since we've taken over. We've tried to up the social media a little bit because it had kind of got stagnant for a bit, but I would like to do more things like that. I had wanted to look into Saturday, and then we ended up having plans because I wanted to try to attend virtually for what I could. But I would love to offer that too, because in Central Florida we have quite a few female brewers, and I'm sure you know, Girls Pine Out now is debuting, women-owned Wednesdays and trying to like at Castle Church Brewing, they have a woman brewer, and I've tried to get her on, and she seems a little nervous. But I'm working on you, Bryn. If you're watching, I'm working on you.
Hey, give her my number. I'll work on her. But yes, we will be partnering with Girls Pine Out in the future. The women are excited. There are things that they want to do here locally that they have a 3-year plan for. And I'm like, nope, make it like 3 months. We're gonna bring it to life. So if Girls Pine Out anywhere around the country wants to partner with Beersgiving, yes, we can do something. And yes, I know you guys are virtual right now, which is why they were running the virtual aspect of the barrel age conversation. But we can do it. Like, I've been planning a virtual barrel age conversation, and I'd like to work with women locally. I'm getting ready to go to Houston to talk with the masterminds of women in beer there. And I'd love to come to Florida and talk to the mastermind women there and encourage y'all to speak, encourage y'all to mentor, encourage y'all to collaborate in ways that you may not have thought possible before. Let me put that bug in your ear. I would love to.
That's what I was gonna say. We have our first virtual retreat coming January, right up against yours, and then we'll be down in Miami, Florida, come February. So same difference. We're definitely in the business of helping others support each other. So I see the links. I see the links, Danii.
Beersgiving collaborations happening right now, live right before your eyes.
Speaking of some collaboration effort, there's a brewery that we've had on before, and there's a brewery that we're going to kind of have on again. They're called Mobcraft out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, actually. And Lucky's been fortunate enough to get us some of their beer. And we're going to be talking with Henry. Well, they just started kind of like a lager and listen series where it's basically a roundtable discussion, kind of what we have now. And I don't know if that'd be something, if I can get you guys in touch with Henry, who is the one of like the founder, the president of Mobcraft, to kind of maybe connect, and you guys can do a lager and listen roundtable and be on one of their future episodes.
Yeah. So Danii, the idea was, I had them on my the Feeling Lucky podcast 2 weeks ago. I think it was episode 13. And so we had them on to promote their Black is Beautiful collaboration, which they're doing with MKE Black, which that's like a website in Milwaukee that promotes Black businesses, Black-owned businesses in Milwaukee. And so I had on him and Ayrton, and they are they're doing a lager and listen. So it's a once a month show, but we put them in contact with Weathered Souls to talk about the Black is Beautiful. And I'd love to get them in contact with you because I would love to listen to a conversation that you have with them. When they were on my on Feeling Lucky, they talked about the lack of diversity in craft beer, and that's Ayrton. Ayrton's like, I hate the feeling of like walking into a craft brewery and being like the only Black guy. Like it's something that they're trying to fix, and that's kind of what they're talking about. And so I'd love to get them in contact with you. I haven't been able to get a word in, but yeah, that's something I'd for sure like to do if possible.
Thank you so much. And please speak up. Don't just sit back.
No, I love listening to you guys. It's not a bad thing at all. I've been totally like enthralled with the conversation, so it's not a bad thing at all. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure we get that in before I wrap up.
But thank you so much for thinking about that collaboration connection. And I look forward to you putting us in contact. I would love that. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
awesome.
I can link you guys up via email right after either tonight or tomorrow. I'll go ahead and send an email kind of linking you guys up, and we'll get the ball rolling there.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So as we begin to wrap up, Danii, if there's any, where can we find you? What do you guys have coming up? Any parting shots as we get ready to call it a night? As we've had some fantastic conversation. This has been really, I could talk all night, but fortunately we have other things and we got families. So where can we find you? Any parting shots?
Well, not all.
You guys can definitely find me on American Woman in Beer on Instagram, American Woman in Beer on YouTube. And if you want to know what's happening in real time, what we have coming up next, it would be beersgiving.info. Island to Island Brewery is still in the licensing phase, so it's not open back up yet, but our headquarters has been established here in Grandview, Texas, and so we definitely do look forward to seeing you guys in the very near future here at Kiddo Family Ranch.
All right, I just dropped a couple of those links in the chat.
Veronica, thank you so much. I know you got the baby in your hands, and we don't want to keep you any longer than you have to be. So any parting shots, where can we find you? what do you guys got coming down the pipe? And we really appreciate you joining us tonight. Thank you.
Absolutely. You guys can find me on Instagram at IM_V_movement, IMV movement, and Cultured Retreats and culturedretreats.com. All of our offerings are there. Connect with us there. Our email addresses are there. And you can also contact us through Danii. She is our industry rep for this entire year, our partner. So if people are looking for scholarships to attend our retreats, if you're looking for a space for you to grow within your industry, let us know, because Danii's our girl right now. So.
Heck yeah, man! Like I said, there's not a thing Danii can't do, and I'm telling you, one day, I'm gonna see her running for president, and hell yeah, you got my vote. That is without doubt.
And then we're gonna vote for her. There we go.
Lucky, feeling lucky coming down the pipe. What do we got going on with the great things you, JJ, and Beef got going on? Feeling lucky Tuesday nights. If you are just tuning in for the first time.
Yeah, no. So we didn't have a guest this week, and I don't believe we'll have one next week. Please, if you enjoyed tonight's conversation, go back and listen to episode 13 where we had Mobcraft and MKE Black on. It was super awesome, and it was a lot of, like I said, I'd love to hear these guys collab because it was such an awesome conversation. But coming up, we aren't going to have a guest, but we are going to have it's the only female-owned brewery that I know of in 2 weeks that was confirmed. Hopefully, if JJ's in the comments, I
think he means in
speaking out of turn.
Okay. I'm about to say, damn, Lucky.
Yeah, no,
we've had female-owned breweries on here.
From Milwaukee.
No. That's what.
Yes.
The look on her face when you
like,
said the only female-owned brewery I know of, she was like,
"Oh no, in Milwaukee. Sorry, in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
We're a Milwaukee podcast.
We've had Lady Justice on. We've had a few.
I'm talking just Milwaukee.
We had
the Barons on. Sorry about that. But yeah, so they'll be on in hopefully 2 weeks. And it'll be awesome to have them on. But yeah, we're just hanging out every Tuesday. Check us out. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you guys for coming on. It's been an awesome night.
Thank
For
you.
sure. Lauren, I know we got some business to attend to with Woodland Empire after this episode ends here. So what do we have happening in the Hops Geek universe?
So our geek episode about Captain America just dropped last night. We did that for Veterans Day because he's everyone's favorite fictional veteran. So like always, we do some current geek news. I guess it's not a spoiler. WandaVision finally has a release date, January 15th. Woohoo! Yeah, you can find that. Same place you can find Feeling Lucky on YouTube and any podcast platform. Just search Hops News. I did not get to show my super sweet can. That is from Tactical Brewing. They're a vet-owned brewery in Orlando that makes amazing beer and obviously some pretty sweet can art with Dr. Ian Malcolm.
Yes.
And that's about it. So, I guess
Awesome.
Nash will wrap it up and tell us about that we're moving to Wednesdays.
Yes. So first of all, if you haven't joined the Hops News Patreon, do so tonight. Patreon.com/Hops News, because we are doing our first annual Secret Santa. Christmas is coming, and we're doing a little Secret Santa event where we'll draw names this weekend. Sign up, and favorite brewery item, favorite style of beer, size T-shirt. That's only through our Patreon Hops News family there, and we'll be December 17th, I believe it is that episode. Either that or it's the day before. That episode's going to be all of us getting together, unboxing our gifts, and just having a really good time. It's a feel-good season. And then, last but not least, we are moving the date and time of our episodes every week. So we will no longer be live on Thursdays. Thursdays will be more of like as my microphone falls over, a Zoom get-together, Hoppy Hour type thing where anybody can join, and we'll all just get together and talk beer. Wednesdays at same time, 8 p.m. Eastern. We will be live Wednesdays right here now. The format of the show is going to change a little. We're going to bring back Beer School. We're going to talk some news segments, and we're going to have a topic each week. So if there's a topic that you'd like to have on one of our shows in the future, let one of us know. Chime up, speak up, let us know, and we're going to be more in a podcasty type situation versus guests every week. The guests will be more sparse. They will still be on. So if you also want a guest on sometime, let me know. And really, really, really appreciate Danii and Veronica coming out tonight. And this is a phenomenal episode. Give us a like, subscribe on YouTube, share us, whatever. Tell your friends, tell your husbands, tell your wife, tell your boyfriends. I don't care who you tell. You can tell the president for all I care. Just let them know. And we'll see you guys Wednesday next week.
Which
No
one?
longer Thursday, Wednesday. Which one? I don't know.
I was joking. Cheers.
So cheers, everybody. I really appreciate it. Cheers.
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 See you
Love
later,
you guys.
guys.
Bye.
Have a
Thank you
good
so
one.
much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I can't see you guys.
That's
But,
right. You haven't been able to see
Lauren,
us.
I'm gonna